Right, hello and welcome to another edition of the Blues Focus podcast with me, your host, John Graham. Once again, many thanks for taking the time to download this pod. And as always, please go to bluesfocuspod.co.uk to review, download, and look at all of the podcasts we've done over recent weeks. And please subscribe so you don't miss one in the future. And indeed, if you're downloading from iTunes, then please leave a comment and rate the pod. It does help us a great deal. And massively appreciated. So obviously, as ever with me, Tom Oxland and Tom Garrett. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Hi, mate. Good, thank you.
Brilliant. Well, that might change in a minute. So let's get involved. So obviously, two major sort of talking points, I suppose. One is the review of the game against Wycombe on Tuesday night, and then obviously previewing the coming game away down at Bournemouth. So let's open it up then. So we've had a couple of days to, let's say, contemplate what happened on Tuesday night, and maybe the emotion might not be as raw. We'll find out in a minute. But Tom G, just give me your thoughts. I guess from team selection through to what you saw on the as an actual performance.
I think, to be honest, it wasn't much different what I expected, really. I think I said 1-1, ended up being obviously 0-0. So not much different in terms of what I thought. I thought, as we discussed the other day, I thought in terms of the team lineup, it wasn't going to be much different than what we planned. But I think after the Middlesbrough game, for me, I thought we can give this a few more games the way we're going. But we just. I don't like to say it often, but we just don't look like we're going anywhere. Attacking wise, I think defensively at times, when we don't look bad at all. We look reasonably comfortable. Against a Wycombe team, obviously that's not as hard when they lost 7 the week before. But I just feel like there's nothing going forward. But it's not that we haven't got the players going forward. And in terms of like new players, I think for me, not bringing anyone on in that game, that was crying out for a substitution. I felt like whether it's 1 or 2 attacking players who are going to come on, I just think, it's the bottom of the league. They've lost 7-2 in the game before. Take the game to them a little bit more. In terms of, the way we worked hard, I don't think you can fault that. I think, players put a shift in. But, just someone, like as we were saying before, just get on the ball, turn and move forward with it and find someone else.
Yeah, I think we'll probably... There probably won't be a lot of structure to this because I think we'll just be sort of to and thrown on the comments that I think we raise individually. And I think, you're absolutely right. You were spot on last pod without a doubt. And I think from my point of view, you'd think that I've been going through this for over 40 years. You'd think I'd probably have a bit of a realism kicking around and all of the positive vibes would be knocked out of me. It is definitely happening now, but I think that I have heard it now quite a lot that we're quite sound defensively, and when you play 6 at the back, you should be, and that's why we're not scoring goals because you've got obviously a flat back 4, and when under Pep last season, it was very much a 4-4-2, and you've got the 2 centre halves exposed. They got found out to not being good enough. And now they're looking better because they've basically got another 2 centre halves in front of them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's it all comes out and it all comes down to how brave is he ever going to be with his selection policy. And I think on your point, I mean you can't sort of fault maybe the commitment. I just think what they're being asked to do, you can absolutely criticise. So, Tom, what were your thoughts? Just, I think, just again on selection first off. What were your thoughts?
Do you know what? When the team came out, I was optimistic. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. I couldn't praise this one particular player enough. Mikel San Jose being put in the midfield instead of a centre back role, game changer. Like that first half, he was all over the place, getting us in good areas. His work rate was fantastic. He was finally given that freedom that he's wanted for weeks now, like where he keeps getting too far ahead of himself at centre back, and that's why we get caught out in behind a lot. But to give him his more natural role, we look like a better side, and Sunjic looked like a better player alongside him at times as well, which I think is key because we need to get Sunjic back in form. Overall, the first half, I thought we were great. they had one or two chances, like Effers pulled off a brilliant save. But overall, it was a solid first half, and I expected us to kind of go and win the game in the second half. And obviously, we took it to them. Their keeper was playing a blinder. Like, he had a great game. But those last 10, 15 minutes, like, the players looked so shattered. So it was literally craving a sub. And I honestly think if we brought on one or two attacking players, we'd have won that game. Just some fresh legs, because they brought on fresh legs and they got back into the game. It's as simple as that. But Karanka's like, oh, I don't want to lose concentration. Concentration might dip.
And we'll go on about some of the comments he's made, because I'm sure a few of the fans have, let's say, probably got a few thoughts on what he's been saying about negativity. And for a manager to say, and bearing in mind, to be honest, a point was no good. Point was point. It was no good.
It's bottom of the table, Wycombe.
I know, and he's got the audacity to say, you know, they're a decent side at home. Well, they're only better than one other side, and that's us. And we're useless at home. Exactly. So much utter nonsense that he's coming out with, and he's starting to sound like a politician, because sometimes you've just got to say, do you know what? I got it wrong, or didn't read it right, or if he'd just been honest, and I suppose he was honest by saying didn't want to make a change because he didn't want us to make a mistake. Well, I'm sorry. If that's the way that's the way they're playing with fear, we're done. 100% done. Because that isn't how you play football. You can't tell me the players on that pitch, you're looking at Wycombe and going, what is this? I mean, they're just lumpet merchants. They've been dire all season.
They were lackluster, utterly lackluster.
They were over the moon. They were over the moon with the way the game was going. And,
sorry, mate. So I was just going to say, you know, I think I said this to you both the other day. For me personally, I think it's, you know, I did like the appointment of Karanka, and, you know, I think at the start of the season we could all say, you know, let's give it a bit more. You know, he had time, and I think, you know, over halfway of the season now, I think, you know, like, as you've just said, he's starting to now. I think when you come back and you say stuff about fans, you know, I think you're playing a very dangerous game, because from what I read, I don't think many people are on his side anyway. So I think, you know, you start saying things like that, and, you know, I think you kind of, if he does it one or two more times, you know, there's going to be a lot more conflict there, whether he walks or whether he gets sacked, you know, who knows. But I just think, you know, he's digging a deeper grave for himself.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And, you know, the whole... And I'm now having done this, you know, we've done a few pods now, and we've been through a lot of different performances. I just think his makeup is very, very straightforward. It's pragmatic. It's get behind the ball. It's nick a goal. And I'm not having 17 shots, you know, and all this nonsense of how attacking we were. I'm just not having it. I'm not having it. And the keeper has pulled off 2 worldies. Fair enough. So's Etheridge in the first half.
Yeah.
In the first half, that deflected goal was and that's where Etheridge is outstanding, one of the best we've had. There are other deficiencies in his game, but that is where he absolutely stands out. So I'm not having it. I'm not having it at all. And if that is, in his words, as he said today, we played well the last 2 games. We haven't.
No, we haven't.
We absolutely haven't. And I watched Man City last night, and that is basically a performance where you are creating chance after chance after chance after chance. Yeah. And you think the way Karanka's talking is that we're doing the same. And they're not chances. They're not. They're just nothing sort of, I don't know.
Well, it's like you said the other day, you know, we're trying to play this football where we're, you know, getting it out wide or whatever. When we put crosses in, as I said before, Pedersen the other night, crosses was going out for a throw-in, out for a goal kick. So, you know, if you're going to play like that, we've got to get, you know, we've got to cross the ball in better. But if not, then, you know, just play it forward, like you say.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the way that we can pontificate as much as we like. And I think between the 3 of us, I think it's probably a decent snapshot of what a lot of Blues fans would say. Well, you know, this is the side that we need to pick. This is how we need to play. And this will hopefully get us over the line to stay up. I'm just... Until he actually does something that's different, then, you know, nothing is going to change. So I wasn't a doom and gloom merchant. I think before the Cov game, I thought we'd have enough to get at least 4 points. You know, we've got 2. And, you know, Rotherham are in form now. Sheffield Wednesday, they've had 6 points deducted, so then it sort of belies where they actually are in reality. So now we've just got to hope that we can get on a run, because I think we've got some okay fixtures coming up. Obviously, we'll talk about Bournemouth in a bit. But when we can drag sides in, I don't particularly rate QPR, and I definitely don't rate Cov. So I think, I think between us and 13th, there's like 6 points.
Yeah.
Or everybody's still banging it. But just Tom G, he's been guilty, I think, many, many times. And I've said it, default change it at 60 minutes, bring some players on, then change it again at 75 minutes. Why do you think he didn't make a change? Apart, I mean, okay, we know why he hasn't made a change. He's rubbish sort of excuse. What would you have done as a Blues fan, looking at that as a guy who watches football? What would you have done given the scenario we were in?
Well, I think first of all, just to say, I think the reason he's doing it is that, as we said, I think if you ask me now, and I think if you spoke to him, if we was to draw, say, how many games now for the rest of the season, and that guide us to safety, I think in a way we'd probably all take it, but we'd definitely take it. I think it's quite clear that he's as we say, he doesn't really want to win football matches, or if he does, but keep it solid first before you do that. But I think, in terms of, I think when you get to about, I think everyone knows it's about 60 minutes, isn't it, in a game of football? You come back out second half. I think a couple of players, you can see it in them. They just look a bit leggy.
Yeah.
And I just try, for me personally, I think, from Bella's point of view, I think, everything positive that we ever do seems to come through him.
Yeah.
But just putting Lecco on, even putting the new, the new guy on, the striker, just
Cosgrove.
We've got, as we said the other day, we've got nothing to lose now. We're in a position, as I said, we're playing a team who, with all due respect, are probably not going to be in the league next year. So we've got, like, as we said, we've got to be beating teams like that. So you've got to go to, even if you just take a midfielder off, put another striker on, go 2 up front. Like as we say, we're going to leave ourselves vulnerable. But I've always been one of them. I'd rather see us, go for a game than sit back and draw 0-0 like that, because, as you say, it was shocking, really.
Yeah, and Tom, what are your thoughts on how do you think he can, I guess, galvanise galvanise the team? Again, you hear that they're cock a hoop in training. Everybody's over the moon. The new lads are coming, and they can't believe how positive it is. It probably shouldn't be that positive. I'm not saying he should be losing the dressing room. But, I think one of the biggest issues that we've got, Harley Dean is relatively vocal, but he's a moaner. It's then who else on that pitch is he's really sort of galvanising that team. And I don't see it. I think they're going through the motions. And somebody made a really good point on I think it was on Twitter, we're sleepwalking into relegation. And that's how it feels.
We did it last season.
I was going to say, it's the same as, I think I said it before, after the start of the lockdown. It just seems very, well, obviously we are in a lockdown again now, but it just seems very much like that, doesn't it? Where, I was watching the games after it restarted last season, and, it was some games where, you're paying £10 for them and you're thinking, what's the point in this, really?
Come in.
Just like I did the other day in the end. But
yeah. So I mean, Tom, where do you think? I think we're all agreed that Bella again, just a constant threat, and fair play to him. Fair play. I mean, in it's difficult conditions, and if a player that relies on skill and getting round people and being brave, if he could do it, then from my point of view, the others should have been able to do it. So where do you see? I guess from the performance against Wycombe, what do you think that he probably could have done it? I mean, just one change. Where do you think the major issue was?
I think there's 3 key points for me. Point number 1 is week in, week out, we're talking about Bella being our best player, which is true. But this is a guy who throughout his career has regularly had fitness issues. If a player who constantly has fitness issues and can't last the full 90 is our best player, what does that say about everybody else? And I'm sorry, but that people can make the excuse of, we didn't have a full pre-season. Nobody has. Nobody has. That is no excuse. We are all on the same level playing field at the moment, and I won't hear that excuse any longer. I remember Scott Hogan kept coming out with it, and fair enough, it's probably more justified coming from a player, but certainly not a manager, especially with the league we're in. And point number 2, coming on to Cosgrove, I know he said he didn't think that was a good game to bring him on. I thought that was the perfect game to bring him on.
Yeah.
We were dominating the game. We were having all the chances. All it needed was just one bit of luck. And we were constantly trying crosses in the box, heading for goal. Cosgrove, he's 6'4". You swap him with Dukey, who's 6 foot. We might well score. But
it sort of completely, sort of shatters the sort of, for me, the falsehood of him saying, I didn't want to risk it. How?
Yeah.
From an individual error point of view. So if you think about the individual errors like Clayton, like Etheridge, there's been plenty, but it tends to be from a defender. If you take Djukovic off and you put Cosgrove on, maybe defending corners. Yeah. Other than that, where's the risk?
But surely
where is the risk?
Could do that.
Exactly. So
I honestly think he could.
I think there was a, looking back on the game, I think he was a bit rabbit in the headlights. I think I just can't understand. We've been through a fairly, I think we said on the last pod, quite a positive transfer window. He's got all these players behind him. The game is turgid, and you're like, mate. And Gardner should be giving him Craig Gardner should be saying, Gaffer, what do you think? He needs somebody to say, we need to change it up.
That goes on to my next point, to be honest.
Go on.
I saw this on Twitter and I couldn't agree more. You look at the team he selected last night, I think only 3 or 4 of them are his signings.
Yeah.
The whole bench was his signings.
Yeah.
The whole bench. And, if you want to implement your style of football into this football club, surely you're bringing in players that suit that style of football. If you're doing so, why aren't you playing them?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I can understand, as you've just said, Tom, I think that's right. Which I can understand, if you're Marceau, Bielsa at Leeds and your players need to be, 50 times fitter than every other team needs to be. But I think, as you say, when you look at all them players on the bench, that brings up something I wanted to bring up, are they even his signings, really?
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
We know that? Because looking back on it now, and we said it again on the transfer window, how crazy it was, did we really have all them players lined up for, or did he have a piece of paper and say, this is who I want? I don't think so.
No,
there's been.
I think that when we obviously we did the pod with Lee Clark.
Yeah.
And I know it feels like a bloody, million years ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And you knew without doubt that those lone players that he was bringing in, that it was either him or somebody very close to him that was scouting those players and getting them in. Yeah. Now, I do not believe for 1 minute that Karanka knows anything about Scottish football. I don't buy it. And I don't think any of his backroom staff do, because they're all Spanish. So somebody somewhere, and fair enough, okay, they've recommended Nesbitt and they've recommended Cosgrove. We've got one of them over the line. Cool. Harper's local, so I could probably just see that it's Albion, it's down the road. The clubs might be closed, they might talk, whatever. And then after that, it's just a massive head scratcher. And I'm with you, Tom. If you're going to get the can, whatever job you do, whether it be a football manager, a bloody salesman, whatever it is, all you want to have is to be in complete control of your own destiny. That's all you can. Because then if you fail, then you can say, well, that was down to me. And at the moment, it just seems to me that I have no doubt that Clayton was his signing because he's been with him before and friend.
Yeah.
But he's not even playing friend. And you're like, what are you doing?
He's our best defender. He literally is our best defender.
Well, for me personally, I think I think when you play Pedersen on that left-hand side, I think in terms of like body shape, sort of style, they're very similar. But I just think Friend, he naturally he's a better footballer. Going forward, he's better. Crossing the ball in when he does get forward, he's better. On the pitch, leader, as we're saying, he's better. So
I know it's fairly comprehensive, and it's like I just again don't understand why managers that are under pressure make decisions that are going to put them, if the result doesn't go their way, put themselves under even more pressure, because that's where he's at the moment. And his face was like a smacked arse after the game, and I'm not surprised, because whilst he might think he was incredibly unlucky, I the keeper's there to make saves. That's what they do. That's their job. Yeah. And okay, the second one with Colin was an absolutely fantastic save, but it shouldn't have been that close. It shouldn't have been us relying on a right back trying to get us the winner.
Yeah,
and he's constant sort of, we're playing, effectively playing teams off the park. I'm literally not seeing. I'm watching a different game. I'm completely watching a different game. So I think, I mean, as much as we will debate it, and we'll move on to the Bournemouth game now, and obviously they're going through their own issues with Woodgate coming in, which I don't know where that came from. I really don't know where that came from. But anyway, so they've got their own issues, but it's never good playing a side that I think are, well, they're still sixth. They've got an unbelievable squad, and maybe they did need to freshen it up and bring in a name in. Maybe the players will respond to it. So, Tom, I think what we'll do this in two halves. What do you think he's going to do? And then probably more unrealistically, what do you think he should do?
Honestly, would it surprise me to see him go back to a centre-back pairing of San Jose and Dean? Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, even though San Jose played a blinder in midfield. It's just the sort of thing I can see him doing. To be honest, it's hard to say, because it really is similar to kind of like the bingo machine days. We're waiting for the lineup with no idea what's going to happen other than Neil Etheridge in goal.
Yeah.
That's really the only guarantee.
Well, do you think that the Valerie comes in for Colin?
Yes, not because Collins played bad, not at all, because I actually thought he played well in the last game. I think it's just about trying something different and, seeing how Valerie gets on in the Championship. I think it'll be a good game to go against. I mean, Bournemouth, they'll be looking to play differently and they won't have had much time to do it. So I can't imagine they're going to look quality on Saturday, despite, the wealth of riches they have player-wise.
Yeah.
But no, I think even if we win, I wouldn't see it as a big win, because they just started this new kind of rebuild process. So, people, even if we did win, people might be like, "Oh, we've just beaten Bournemouth." I wouldn't see it as much of an achievement. But
just that statement there, we've beaten Bournemouth. Jesus Christ. I know they've been a Prem side, but in the sort of the natural sort of hierarchy of the game,
grand scheme of things,
God's sake. So, Tom G, so we're gonna be enforced change at the back, with Roberts deciding to snap somebody in half in the Wycombe game. Oh my God!
It didn't look that bad at first, and they showed the replay, and I thought,
Jesus Christ. So obviously we're going to have to make a change. What do you think? Again, what do you think he'll do, and what do you think he should do?
I think I'll agree bang on with Tom. I think Sanyo's. I think he's going to move him, to centre back. He's played there how many times under him now, hasn't he? I think Harper will probably come into the midfield. But saying that, actually, I thought I haven't mentioned it, but I thought Gardner. I thought he had a really good game the other day in terms of work rate and determination. So maybe he might slot in there. In regards to Valerie, as Tom said as well, I think he might start, but I don't think I would. I think in terms of how many he's played that many games for us now in that position. We're at this stage of the season. I'd probably start with Colin, but who knows there. For me, I'd probably give Lecco a start. And I think I said this to the other day, and I don't want to say that I don't like him or rate him, because I think he's a fantastic player. But I think I do feel like Sanchez has looked a bit isolated in the last few games, as well as Terrell. Maybe just giving Lecco a go and bringing Sanchez on, or even putting Sanchez in the middle. In front of just behind the striker, because I just think, as I say, we've got to try something different. Just a little spark somewhere.
Yeah, I think for me, what I'd like him to do, I'd like to see Friend come in at centre half and maybe retain Pedersen on the left.
Yeah.
I would go with Valerie simply because, he's played at that sort of higher standard. Colin got ripped to pieces against Bournemouth last time out. I mean, everything was going down that side. Got absolutely murdered. I think there was probably an element of him being exposed because Sanchez is not the strongest. When he comes from the defensive side of the game, he can get bullied off the ball, and he's always looking for the foul. There's so many times where he's looking up at the referee when he's been put on his arse, and it's like, mate, nothing going. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with Sanchez, I don't think he fancied it on Tuesday. And I'm not going to have a go at him because I think he has been a very, very good signing for us.
Yeah.
But he's played pretty much every minute of every game since he's been with us. I think Wycombe on a Tuesday night hammering down with rain is probably not the kind of deal he's looking for, to be brutally honest. And I don't think he acclimatised totally well to that. If he's going to take a blow, I think that Bournemouth probably wouldn't be the worst game to maybe make that change. Again, I know I bang on about it a lot, but the middle of the park is ultimately going to be the catalyst for us being able to get on the front foot or not. I'm with you, Tom. I thought Gardner was. I mean, for me, Gardner and Bella were probably the two that could actually get back on the coach on Tuesday and say, I did all right. I put a shift in. And I think with Gardner, he has got this. There was I think it might have been the foul just before Roberts got sent off. Anyway, he went careering down the middle of the park and he got absolutely scythed down about 25 yards out. And every game he does that 2 or 3 times. And I like the way he carries the ball out. So for me, I'd probably look at maybe Gardner and Harper, and maybe I like San Jose, but until we can get into the culture of playing football, I just don't. That for me is if he's got time on the ball, he can ping it everywhere. That's where he's going to be an absolute godsend for us. But the way we're set up, I don't think that he's going to fit the system that undoubtedly, Karanka's going to play. Bella's got to play. And then up top, obviously, again, Hogan, I think anybody that has watched any of the football in the last, 4 games, he's looked sharp without scoring. He's wanting to get involved. He's defended from the front. I think that he's looked like there's a goal in him. And, we get to Wycombe and he brings on a striker that he doesn't fancy, that he nearly sold and hasn't scored since the old king died. And you're like, mate, what on earth? So what do we, again, back to the bingo.
He was happy for him to go, wasn't he? Really, from what from the sounds of it, and I think how can you go from that to like as you say, starting him? It's just balmy, isn't it? Really,
absolutely. So if we say we've got, well, I'm going to say number 10. It's not a number 10. We don't play number 10. So we've got a number 10 and we've got a striker. Tom, thoughts?
I think, to be honest, I thought Juki put a shift in that first half, and looked value for his selection. Against a team like Bournemouth, who have always gone for kind of quick centre backs, not the strongest, not weak by any means, but I don't think pace is the right option against Bournemouth because they are a very fast team in general. I think we'd look to play Juki again, be physical, or Cosgrove. This is one of those games where we need to be physically above them and just make sure we're getting to every ball before they are and bully them a bit. That's what we need to do. Really get into them, get stuck into the game and make it an ugly game, whether that be by set pieces, free kicks, all that. Just try and make it as ugly as possible and make them play a way they don't want to.
Yeah.
So that would be my way of going about it personally.
And who would you have with him?
Um, I think Terrell's been missing recently. Obviously Sanchez has been quite isolated the last few games because teams have started to realise that Sanchez is our main source of creativity, and I think that's why the last few games Bella has become so noticed, because everyone's so focused on nullifying Sanchez.
Yeah.
And we've seen Sanchez playing that number 10 role before, and he shone like he
Yeah.
did. So I think to switch it up and make us less predictable, I'd actually have a go at putting Sanchez in the number 10 role and then maybe put Lecco on the right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a more than fair shout, and that I don't think he's going to change his sort of formation. So I think that then does limit. I think he's not going to make wholesale changes because it's not his style. Indeed, if he makes more than one outside of the one he's got to make, then I think that's probably the full extent of his ability to be a little bit brave. But there's going to come a point very, very quickly where the talking has got to stop. The nonsense that he's spouting about, the negativity. And as I said, if he pinned the league table on the wall in the dressing room, if anybody in that dressing room is anything other than negative or worried, we got a massive problem.
Yeah.
Because like, again, as people have said, this sort of innate, everything's going to be okay, lads. I've been there. It isn't going to be okay. I can promise you. So yeah, I think that it's very much a case of let's see. I think let's see what the lads that he actually puts on the park, see what they can do and see what they can, I think, contribute. But yeah, I mean, for me, it is a massive worry at the moment. There's no two ways about it. My attitude has changed 360. I mean, 100% since before the Cov game. I thought we'd be fine. I'm massively worried now. And you'll have seen I tend to be more positive than negative, but the words that he's come out with, the man's deluded. He's absolutely deluded. And if he's saying to the lads that's acceptable, that's what he's going to get. And that level of performance against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if Bournemouth play well and we play like we did against Coventry?
I think just quickly on his comments, I think the arrogance behind it is just it's not nice to see. I think the last place you want to go looking to start a fight is with the fans right now, especially. And for someone to sit there and criticize us when he's got a worse record than Redknapp, Lee Clark, Pep Clotet, and Steve Cottrell. That is, although a couple of them in there are great managers, they've been great managers elsewhere. Their run at Blues, not pretty. And to be worse than that takes some doing. And he's not far off Zola. He's not. And that's not a name that you want bandied around by you, associating with your managerial stint at Birmingham City. But just quickly on that, I actually think Zola had more of an identity with his style of play than Aitor Karanka does. Like, when we played under Zola, we played pretty football. We just kept losing. It was clear to see what he was trying to do. Whereas with Karanka, I honestly have no clue every week.
Yeah, I mean, Tom G, just if you think about the managers like Monk and Rowett, then, did you when you were turning up St Andrews, did you think, okay, I know what to expect here, or not? Did you think there was an identity then?
Yeah, I think pretty much since I've been a Blues fan, I think really I'm 27 now, and I think we've never, I don't think I've ever seen a Blues team get the ball down and really play nice football, attacking football. I think we've always been a team who we've been hard to beat. When the fans are allowed, obviously we make it a bit of a fortress, and teams don't like coming there. But yeah, I just feel like we're at a point now where, as we've said, we're coming down to the end stage of the season, and it's like a bit like Groundhog Day, and as if it hadn't already like that enough with the lockdowns and stuff. And I just feel like it's hard because as much as everyone, I do think get rid of him kind of thing. He's not doing anything, but it's like we've had that many managers since, you know, Rowett and the likes of that now, and it's like, you know, I don't even know what the answer is really. Like, as Tom just said, I think we just need a clear identity, and if that is going back to, you know, how we played under Monk and Rowett, but at least we were winning games. It weren't pretty, but I think when you play like that, and if you win 1-0, it's fine. But you know, if you lose or you draw, it doesn't look good, does it?
No, and I think, yeah, well, what Karanka's got, his style is that it's pragmatic 1-0.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got to look forward to. That's it. He's not going to be anything other than that. The issue we've got is he can't even do that.
No.
So, you know, you know, I think for us, we've just got to hope that a couple of these new signings coming in that are catalyst to lift the team and lift the whole thing. And, you know, whether we get a little bit of luck, but if we're relying on luck again, it's beyond naive. So while we wrap it up as we do, so Tom, predictions for the game on Saturday?
I do think we'll win, and that's why I made the point of, you know, if we win, I don't think anyone should rave about it, because Bournemouth are going into this transitional stage. But it just seems like one of those games, like your Middlesbrough away this season, where yes, we were poor against them at home, but we will be much better away. And it depends how well we play, whether I praise Karanka, but I can see us winning 2-1, to be honest.
Wow.
I know.
Fair play.
We've lost their last 4 games. And
fair play to you. So, Tom, where's your head at with it?
No, I can understand where you're coming from there, Tom. Because as we do seem to go away from teams and beat teams. You know, 2-1 a few times this year, but I can't see us beating them the weekend at all. I think with the new manager, or you know, I don't know whether he's manager or caretaker, whatever. But you know, there's always that people think that's a good time to play. I'm the other way. I think, you know, players all want to play well in that game, you know, to get noticed under the new manager or whoever's going to be there. I'm going to go with 3-1 to Bournemouth, I think.
Okay. Wow. Well, I think from my point of view, I'm going to put a caveat to it. I think if he only makes, obviously he's got the 1 enforced change. If he only makes one other change to the team that played against and started against Wycombe, I can't see us getting anything, you know. And yeah, that could. I don't think we'll necessarily concede loads, but we won't score. I think we could lose 2-0. I think if he makes some real positive changes, so, you know, Harper does come in, Cosgrove does come in, Valerie comes in. I think Alalovic he's not going to be back. He's going to be back next week, thank God. And maybe he goes for a Lecco and a Hogan. It's just something. Something.
I was going to say, sorry, I think that I was going to say that before. I think we tried that once earlier on in the season, and I know that he got slated for it. But I can't remember who it was against now. But
I think we didn't QPR.
Yeah, but I just think, you know,
as
you say, why not try that again? Just something different in it. Because if you can get Lecco off him, especially against a team like Bournemouth, who are going to be pressing high, you've got to be a pace in behind, then, haven't you?
Yeah. No. So I think if he makes the changes that I'd want him to, I think we can. I think we could certainly get a scoring draw. I don't think from what I've seen in the last 2 games, I just can't. I couldn't hand on heart say with any level of confidence that we could go there and win. I just think that there's a massive rebuild to do, and doing it away at Bournemouth is probably not the best place to do it. But yeah, if he makes plenty of changes, I think we can get a draw. But we will see, and hopefully when we reconvene on the next pod, it's not going to be about negativity and, you know, Karanka slating the fans and. When he says we actually have played well, we have played well, and it's not just utter nonsense. So on that note, guys, thank you very much for your time, and we will be back after the game. And thank you very much everybody for downloading the pod. Sorry if it was a bit negative, but I'm sure we're all in this together. And let's hope we can, by some miracle, do us all a favour and get a victory on Saturday. So until then, thanks very much.